Welcome back to the FantasyPuck Podcast. Today we've got myself, Chris, and Dawn. We're going to be taking over this week's episode for you guys. Lots to go over here. We definitely want to touch on the Creators League as well. Just go over kind of things that have been happening throughout the league. For those of you that were there during draft night, we have a league full of awesome content creators around the fantasy hockey space. So really excited to go over that with you guys, as well as looking over some of past week's performance. This week especially is kind of a weird week schedule-wise. And then we're looking at some upcoming players that we like to stream, as well as just basically going over everything fantasy hockey-wise up until this point. Dawn, how are you doing, bud? Good to have you on. I know this is our first appearance on the pod, so I'm excited.
Yep, yeah, it's good to be back. I guess we could say we were planning to do one last week, but had a little technical difficulty. So good to be on it, and hopefully this one runs smoothly.
Yeah, I can confirm your audio is working this time, so that's my bad. I enjoyed our last week's discussion. We're gonna kind of go over some of the stuff we touched on last time that unfortunately didn't get out. But I know that we have recently updated some things Patreon-wise, if you want to kind of touch on that briefly before we get into things.
Yeah, sure. So if you're an active Patreon, you would have already gotten like an email or maybe one of our messages in the Discord. But we've updated our projections to be rest of season projections now. So kind of taking in our beginning of the year projections and then mixing it in with what they've already done. So we've updated some of the guys off to hot starts, and then we've also adjusted some of the guys who've been hurt. They're not perfect, as someone pointed out. When we made the changes, we still had Lehkonen projected to play a full season. Obviously, that's not going to happen with his recent long-term injury, but those will kind of be corrected as the year goes on, and we kind of adjust. But yeah, that's going to be that's live right now. So if you're not already on our Patreon, I suggest joining again, even for another month, just to get the updated projections. Along with that comes obviously the customizable feature, as well as our trade analyzer, and then kind of one of the new things that at least I've been working on, and I'm pretty happy with how it's been turning out, our weekly newsletters. So kind of takes a little bit of the content that you get on Discord, a little bit of the content that you get on YouTube, puts it into one kind of weekly newsletter. So you're going to get all your streamers, past performances of the week, a little bit of Q&A with the FP guys, and then some injury updates. So pretty much everything you're going to want to preview for the week ahead. But yeah, those are all available on our Patreon. So shameless plug from Chris and I.
Yeah, like honestly, like the newsletter I find very, very helpful. I know a lot of the time, like Mike and I are doing weekly preview stuff, so we're looking at that anyways. But the newsletter definitely, I feel like, goes more in depth in terms of like specific players that you want to target. And say, for example, if you have any type of injuries, we've addressed all of those, the actions that you should take accordingly based off of the injury. And then players we recommend to either fill that injury spot with a similar role on the team, or just somebody in general that will provide you with the same type of production / peripherals. So honestly, like something that I think has really been beneficial, not only to viewers, but to Patreon subscribers specifically, in that sense that they're able to just get that before even the weekly preview sometimes. All right.
Yeah, exactly. That, as you said about the injuries too, like it's one of the biggest things in the Discord that we get a question about. It's like, Alex Tuck is out. Who should I pick up? And we're like, all right, did you look at like Peterka? Because that's who's kind of going to be eating those minutes that Tuck is leaving behind. So yeah, it's the injuries is a big part of it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's dive into things here. Let's start off with the Content Creators League that we are both currently in right now. Just taking an overall look at the league, you were right, it is a 12-team league. How would you evaluate your first kind of like 5 or so weeks? I know we're just starting off week 6. We'll kind of touch on the schedule for this week as well as looking forward, but this week's kind of weird in terms of like scheduling and everything like that. But up until this point, how are you rating your team so far?
Not too bad. I think my answer changed from last week because I got a win this week, so it brought me to 2 and 3, which is a little underwhelming, but we are playing against practically the best of the best here, right? So I'd give myself maybe like a 6.5 out of 10 so far. We're looking up. I do unfortunately have McDavid on my team. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but based on how he's done this year, he has not been deserving of the number one overall pick. So I was a little hurt by injuries at the start. I had Aho, McDavid, Petro, and I believe and Levi all out at one point. So that was kind of putting me in a hole early. But I don't really like to blame injuries. So I like to think I'm getting back up to where I need to be, getting up to speed, and hopefully I can pick up another win this week. But yeah, otherwise it's been fun. I've been enjoying the content creators league and kind of just enjoying seeing other people cover the league from their perspective and how they view their teams. So it's been good so far. How about your thoughts?
Yeah, I think like just taking an overall top-down view from your team right now, like you've definitely have good pieces. Obviously, like McDavid hasn't been McDavid, but Aho, DeBrincat's had a really hot start. Raymond's starting to come around. He's got 11 points on the year so far. Adrian Kempe's been fantastic. Sergachev's kind of been a little bit underwhelming. Petro, once he's been back, has been great. He's got 9 points already on the year, and that guy's an absolute block machine. And then you've got guys like Trouba that hit a lot of peripherals. And then your goaltending is coming around. Obviously, like Sorokin's going to be a stud in this league, especially given the volume and everything. But now that Levi seems to be playing more and more consistently, and he's just kind of started to settle in a little bit, I think your team's definitely on the upswing. I did want to touch on the McDavid thing. You kind of brought that up. Is this something that actually like concerns you going forward with him? Where you at in terms of like confidence level? I know that some people have been trying to trade him, and you've been pretty open to taking offers on him. At least I shouldn't say that you're like looking to trade him, because I don't think anybody else in the right mind is looking to trade McDavid right now. But he's definitely not 100%, and I just wanted to get like kind of where your confidence level is on him.
I was wondering if you're going to bring up the McDavid trade stuff. I know it's a very close to your heart topic, just because of our trade discussions we had on him. So it's not really a concern for me, but I kind of always have had that like perspective with like the elites of the elites. Like there's a price for everybody. A lot of people like to take guys off the table. Like, oh, I'm not trading McKinnon. I'm not trading McDavid. I'm not going out of my way to trade him, but based on an offer I got from another member of the league, it made me think like, is there a price to McDavid? And yeah, there is, especially this year of all years. Not only because I like to kind of spread my wealth around my top stars. So if McDavid gets hurt, well, there goes my first round pick. Meanwhile, if I traded him for 3 like top 50 players, then I can kind of spread my wealth around. Even if one of those guys does get hurt, I still have 2 others. So that's kind of how I look at it. I know like Chris, you and I have gone back and forth, I guess, for the past 4 or 5 days on some offers. We haven't been able to get anything to work yet, but like I still listen to them, and I think about all your offers in terms of whether they're gonna make my team better and actually keep myself competitive, or what. It's also a little bit different because it's a redraft, so I can't kind of recoup any draft picks or keepers.
Yeah, this is turning into an episode of 32 Thoughts where we're going over insider trades and everything that's happening throughout the league here. But definitely, like, I've reached out to McDavid, and my kind of perspective, and I've been pretty, open about it. It's just the fact that, McDavid could honestly be worth 2 guys from the first round when he's 100%. He's obviously not 100% right now. And I think that, for me, in the sense that it's so early still, like we're just kind of getting over the 10-game mark. I know Edmonton just had a coaching change. They're looking to kind of, push things forward. They've had a really, really terrible start, which is like, I understand like having a price on every single player. But for me, like McDavid is just one of those people that it doesn't matter what kind of situation he's in. It doesn't matter if, he's not playing at 100%. To me, the value when he is 100%, and I believe he will get back to that level of play, is just too high to where, like, even if I'm accumulating, 2-3 guys in the top 50, it's just, you're having to then edit your team and edit your roster to the sense where, you're moving out pieces that you obviously don't want to move. And even though they're like lower tier players, like I look at a guy like Owen Tippett, for example, and obviously like he's not going to be a 100-point player. Everybody knows that. But could he jump back to where he was last year if he finally gets that bump in ice time like we saw in the second half of the season? And the fact that it's like you're kind of changing the entire makeup of your team from what you've drafted, especially like being able to have McDavid in a points league in general, where it's not just specifically hitting categories, you're just accumulating points for his peripherals and his goals and production and all that stuff. To me, he's so valuable. And even though like I understand the model of spreading your wealth, like you said, being well-rounded in terms of everything, the amount of points that you're going to get out of that one spot is just so much for me. So I'm for having McDavid and not really kind of accepting anything when it comes to that. Unless, okay, the one caveat is if you get like a top 5 player back. Like I think in that sense, then I would listen, right? But he's, like I said, he can just be worth 2 people from the first round, essentially, just based off of the level that he plays at. Like you're talking about a 150-point player has just recently hit an elite level of shot volume as well too, and has 19 hits on the year too, which is a lot more than I thought. Like he's got more than Kempe, he's got 1 less than Mario Ferraro. So like that's another.
Mad. He's playing mad right now.
He is definitely pissed off. That's for sure. All right. Let's touch on my team for a little bit because I just took a loss recently and I'm now 3-2 on the week. Looking at my team, like Data Driven Hockey, who's 1-4 now, absolutely just choke slammed me in week 5, putting up 429 points to my 368. I was one of the lowest that this past week, and I think part of the reason that I'm seeing from my team, at least for right now, is the fact that I have Patrick Kane still rostered, who's just basically sitting there taking up a bench spot in an NA spot. And then I've also seen recently that Vetrano's kind of slowed down a little bit. He did have 3 points last game, but prior to that, he just hasn't really been scoring at the rate that he is. Not that I'm ever expecting him to score at the rate that he currently is, but he started to just kind of slow down after a blazing hot start. And then for some reason, I don't know why, I have Alexis Lafreniere on my team, who I think I streamed him and he actually picked up 2 goals, played 24 minutes last night, actually. He's actually heating up. So that's somebody that I looked at the beginning of the week to kind of pick him up. But I think, going forward, a lot of my team seems to be clicking. The big thing that I'm seeing, at least, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, is I have a lot of shooters on my team. Like I've got guys like Cole Caulfield, I've got Mikko Rantanen, Evander Kane has 4 goals on the year, but he's typically more of a goal guy versus an assist guy. Brock Nelson's got 6 on the year. So I tried to kind of build my team around shot volume and goals, and then my goaltending has just been solid. Jake Ottinger's been great. Joseph Woll's kind of been hit or miss, I think, as of late as well too. And then Jacob Markstrom, even though like he's not winning games, he still puts up times. Like he had 8 points last game for me, even though they actually ended up winning against Nashville, but his volumes kind of started to slow down a little bit, which is slightly concerning for me. But like even though he doesn't win games and Calgary's been bad, he still puts up like 30 plus saves and he'll get me around like 4 to 5 points. And for a guy that I think could be up there in terms of one of the better goaltenders in the National Hockey League, it's just the fact that Calgary has kind of slowed down in terms of, their overall wins, and that's really kind of stumped Markstrom's value as of right now. But I still like him on my team. Like, let me hear your thoughts, Don. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, first off, I see Markstrom's on your IR still, so I'd probably start him tonight against Montreal. Just helping you out there, one brother to another. But yeah, he's gonna. Calgary does not help him out at all, so you're right. He's going to get you like 28, 32 saves a night, but he'll probably let him 3 or 4 goals. So if you can sacrifice the goals allowed, like he's going to get you a win or 2 a week probably going forward. You touched on Kane too. Like my opinion on him hasn't really changed. I was down to stash him at the beginning of the year. Fine, drafted him in the last couple of rounds, which you did. I probably would have cut ties with him by now just because I want that extra bench spot and I needed it considering I was 1-3 last week. So I was streaming anybody and everybody. The other thing with the Rangers too, you should have used the weekly schedule because the Rangers only have 1 game this week. So I know I know Laugh's been heating up a little bit, but you're only gonna get one game out of him this week, so I probably would have waited a week to stream him. Otherwise, yeah, your team looks good. Like you mentioned, you've been prioritizing shots, which is never a bad idea because shots equals goals, which equals pluses, which equal power play points. So all your offense is covered if you have a shooter on your team. For Toronto, I own in another league or two as well. I picked him up after his like hat trick in game 2. I don't really see any concern like about dumping him. You can try like packing him to sell high. I think most guys in this league have an idea of what kind of player he actually is, and he can be streaky. So you might not get like an elite player for him alone, but you can package him into a deal if you wanted to, if you were concerned about him. I wouldn't be, just because Anaheim's filled with a lot of young guys, and they're probably happy to give a vet who's producing a lot of time. Like we saw them give that right back to Killorn when he came off IR, right? So I have no concerns other than with Vetrano. But yeah, your team's like looks good. It's definitely deserves to be above 500. Mine doesn't, so yeah, you can enjoy it while you have it now. But I'm coming for you.
Yeah, I think just touching on the Patrick, just before we get into Patrick Kane, I grabbed Laugh on a Sunday stream last week, and I just now dropped him and put Markship in. Thank you to you for noticing that. But I think with Patrick Kane, the reason why I haven't cut ties with him at this point is because, like, I feel like there's no point in drafting him and deciding to hold him and then just dropping him within like the first 3 or 4 weeks. And just picking up like a waiver wire player. Like, I'm at the point of no return, I feel like, where I just might as well hold him until he signs with the team. And it's like every week it's like, oh, he's getting closer to signing, oh, he's getting closer to signing. And I understand that, like, you know, we're approaching week 6 right now, but he's going to do nothing but benefit my team when he's rostered. Much more than any other waiver wire player, I think, is available right now in terms of a forward. It really depends on like what kind of Patrick Kane we're getting, but I think at this point it's just worth kind of holding and waiting and seeing what happens value-wise. If he has a hot start, I can always sell high. I like the sell high on Vetrano. The thing that I'm finding with this league is, and we'll kind of touch on trades quickly, I'm finding a lot of the times, like when you're trying to deal with managers, they know a player's true value. Like they know Vetrano is at peak value right now, and no one's really looking to trade for him because he's so expensive. So it's difficult to kind of sell high on players in this league versus, you know, buy low. Like you're really looking for those kind of hockey trades where it's like, oh, I need a D, I'll give you a winger of equal value, or I need a center, I'll give you a goalie of equal value, right? And so, like, looking at the scoring in this league, it's obviously very skewed in Vetrano's favor right now when he's got 11 goals, 47 shots on the year, 22 hits, 17 blocks. Like, he's just been a categories machine, which is also why I haven't like kind of cut ties with him. Like, if he continues to shoot the puck at the rate that he's going, like, he's got more shots than Evander Kane right now, got more shots than Tim Stützle. So it's like I can't really drop him just because he's continuing to play well. And I'm sure we'll get to a point where it's like the production will slow down, and then I kind of have to make a decision on him, like how good are the peripherals versus players that I could be streaming. But I think, you know, just given my current situation, my hands are really just tied with what I have for right now.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, he's playing still. He's averaging 18.5 minutes right now on ice. So, like, there's nothing concerning about that. His time isn't really going down or anything. There's a couple games he's been at like 16, but there's also a few he was playing 20. So, yeah, I mean, I'm holding Vetrano in the leagues I own him in.
All right, so just touching on the league as a whole, has there been any teams that have really kind of shocked you in terms of how good they've performed, just based off looking at their roster, or even the opposite end? Like, have you been surprised at some of the teams that are on the lower end of the spectrum that like haven't been performing to the standard just based off of how their teams been looking? Like, I know Data Draft was 4-0 last week, and we kind of touched on that. He's now 4-1 on the year, but
thanks to me.
You did end up giving him his first loss of the year, but just looking at the league in a whole, what are some of the teams that kind of stand out to you?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned him already. Data Draft was the guy who had stood out to me, especially because he's around like 200 less points than the leader, points for at least than the leader in the league. So the 4-1 is nothing to shrug off, but yeah, I did give him his first loss. He's got A couple guys that are hurt this week, so he was missing Hughes a little bit and Montour as well. But his team's solid, so he's definitely been the best team I'd say so far in terms of looking at a guy from his output, from what he's been given, and then his future too. So he's got Montour to come back as well. Otherwise, there's hasn't really been anything crazy. Like we have everyone's got one win and everyone's got one loss now. A couple guys that are at the bottom of the standings are the guys that haven't made a lot of moves. So our bottom two in moves are also bottom two in our standings, which I thought was interesting. So streaming works in this league. Use your ads, guys, right? So you have 4 ads, use them kind of thing. So otherwise, there's been nothing crazy. How about you?
Yeah, like I think one of the noticeable things when it came to Data Draft's team is the fact that he kind of picked towards that turn, and we were talking about that earlier on, like preseason and before that when we were looking at kind of like where players were landing ADP wise at the end of the first round, early second. He ended up getting that term where he gets Tage Thompson and Jack Hughes, and obviously Jack Hughes has been lights out when he's been playing. The injury, not having him, kind of hurts. But one of the players I wanted to highlight on his team was Artemi Panarin, who I believe he took in the second round. He's been absolutely lights out, and to me is probably one of the favorites for an early league winner, just given the fact that his shot volume has been so much higher than we initially anticipated. And given and also he's got 24 points on the year with 8 goals already, 10 of which are on the power play. And that Rangers power play is always good every single year consistently. But with Panarin, just the thing that shocked me the most is he's already at 55 shots on goal, which is 4 more than Tage Thompson, who is an elite shooter in terms of his volume. But yeah, it's just like you never expect a guy like that, especially like we kind of talk about the guys like Panarin, guys like Gaudreau, Huberdeau, the ones that kind of have like a lower end shot volume, but just give you a ton of assists, ton of power play points. I honestly was not expecting to start out of Panarin, and it's paid dividends for him early on.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost been like Zib has been a little underwhelming, and Panarin's been overwhelming. So I'm just looking at it now. He's shooting almost double what he was in prior years. So he had like right around 7.5 shots per 60. This year's up over 12 shots per 60. So yeah, you're right. That shot volume is crazy and not something we expected from a guy who's, I guess, kind of known for his passing more. Like he had those 60, 70 point assist years. So that's kind of what I was expecting of Panarin. I wasn't targeting him because goals are a little bit sexier than assists. And as I said, the shots are going to pay off on fantasy more than the assists are. So he's been a great surprise for him. Yeah, Hughes obviously before his injury was probably the MVP of the year, and Tage was a little bit off to a slow start, but he's still ranked 65 right now, ahead of McDavid, of course. But he's fine. He's got 51 shots, 6 goals, so nothing to like really stress over. But yeah, I agree that turn seemed to have been the good spot for the draft so far. Not the first turn that I had. I had one 24, 25. So.
Yeah, I think just another thing to highlight about his team is the goaltending. Vegas has been so strong to start. He's got 12 wins between Aiden Hill and Logan Thompson. They've both been when you have a team that's rolling like that and you have both goalies, you're going to profit off that. And then even though Georgiev hasn't been great in terms of actual like save percentage and goals against, he just plays so much volume. He gets a ton of wins that he's going to continue to accumulate points. And then I kind of looked at his team and I was like, well, really the only thing that's really hurting him a little bit is his defense. And then I looked and he's got Brandon Montour back, who could be back anytime this weekend, and that's just going to benefit him going forward as well too. So Kenny's in a great spot early on in the season.
He is, yeah. And you mentioned Georgiev. That's a kind of a good segue into the I guess the newsletter a little bit, and as well as like the past week performers. Bob, another example, like kind of in the same category as Georgiev, where I feel like his goals against average and save percentage aren't where you want them to be for a number one goalie, but they're getting wins, and those are huge in fantasy. So I have no concerns really with Georgiev. He's going to finish with 30 plus wins. Bob probably will too in Florida. So I've seen a lot of people that are like trading Georgiev or wondering if they should sell him, and I'm like, he's
Yeah, I think as long as you continue to accumulate wins and accumulate saves at a high rate, like it really depends on your goaltending stats. And I think it's a little bit different in points leagues versus categories leagues, where like these high shot volume or these high save volume, I should say, teams where they'll just get you like 30 saves, and if they let in a couple goals, it doesn't really hurt you too much. But the fact that Bob is winning so much, and the fact that Georgiev continues to win so much, like Bob's won his last 4 games, five of his last 5 games, and 6 of his last 7. So it's just Florida continues to roll. Like they're just so good offensively. They kind of had a really easy schedule just in the past couple, just in the last week or so here, like Columbus, Washington, Carolina is obviously a big win, but then you get Chicago twice in there. They actually ended up losing to Chicago the one game, but Bob didn't actually end up playing. So I think like as long as you have these high win goalies, they're going to benefit you even if their stats kind of bring them down a little bit. And like I said, a little bit different in categories leagues versus in points leagues where, you know, that might hurt you a little bit more in categories leagues, for example. But looking forward at some of this kind of past week performances and kind of like going forward into next week, who are anybody that you kind of wanted to highlight in terms of player performance, team performance, and who are you most surprised about in the National Hockey League to start things off?
Yeah, that's. I actually didn't notice that about the Panthers schedule, and it's funny they play San Jose tonight, so only getting easier for them.
That'll be another
Stallers,
10
good
for San Jose.
Good stream tonight is Stallers, so if you need a goalie. Yeah, we mentioned a couple of teams in the Discord and in our previews. Anaheim, I think, had the best schedule for the current week, right? Like they had the only team with 3 off-night games. So guys like Leo Carlson, if he plays, Killorn and Fowler were a couple of the names we were recommending. Killorn's back on line 1, power play 1. So, he's going to have some value alone just off those. And then St. Louis also had a very easy schedule. They have the West Coast trip, so they'll play San Jose, LA, and Anaheim. So guys like Robert Thomas, who has been red hot, Buchnevich and Shen are a couple guys I was targeting that are probably available on your waiver wire for if you need a stream. In terms of performances, I would say like my top performer is someone who I was drafting and someone who I've been very impressed with, Sam Reinhart. I know we've discussed his name a couple times in our Fantasy Puck chat amongst the group of us, but he has just continued to be on fire, shooting the puck. He's getting power play points and he's getting assists too. So he's been pretty much all around a great offensive guy for me. I think he's up over 20 points now, so well over a point per game. And he's on that Florida team that's had a great start. So easy schedule. I don't know if it's going to continue, but I'm holding him. He's on power play 1, so no reason for that to stop. And he's kind of was one of those underrated power play guys last year. I've been stressing that he was, I think, 8th in power play time on ice in the whole league last year. So they clearly trust him there, and he's making it count.
Yeah, it just seems like with Reinhardt especially, like if you look back kind of at his history, he's had some success in Florida for sure. And Florida just always seems to be like a high scoring team every single year, no matter what. Like even if you look back, like he was over a point a game in 2021-22 when he had 82 points in that span, and he looks like he's just on an absolute tear again this year. He is shooting at 23% right now, though, and his career average is around like that 13-14 mark, depending on whether it's the Buffalo or the Florida side. It still always fluctuates around there for him, but I think he'll come back down to earth a little bit in terms of his goal scoring. But he is a historical 30-goal scorer, and if he hovers around a point a game this year, that's definitely a great value if you guys were able to grab him in your drafts. One of the big things for me, at least in terms of individual performances, has been Quinn Hughes. I think he is the front runner for the Norris right now. It's not particularly close. His shot rate has absolutely skyrocketed compared to last season as well. Last season, he was at a 4.6 shots per 60. This year, he's at a 7.8. And he just continues to produce at such an elite level. He's got 23 points on the year with 18 assists, 5 goals already. That's honestly like half of what he had last year, over half of what he had last year. He's never hit over the 10 goal mark in his career, which is shocking. And he is shooting at 10% right now when he usually hovers around half of that, around 5%. But I think with Hughes, if he continues to shoot the puck and he continues to stay healthy, like he's playing 24 minutes average time on ice right now for Vancouver. They're an absolute wagon so far to start off the year. That team seems to have figured it out both on the power play and defensively as well, too. And a healthy Thatcher Demko is also another notable league winner for me. But just the fact that you're getting so much value out of Quinn Hughes shooting the puck more, and there's one guy in my league, in my $100 buy-in league, that actually has a huge power play stack of Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, and he also has Kuzmenko, I believe, as well, too, and he's just been milking those power play points because Vancouver's just been so elite on the power play to start off the year. But any type of concern about Vancouver regressing? I know they're on a huge like PDO heater right now, but it just seems like they just might be the high-scoring team this year. I want to just get your thoughts quick on whether or not you see them being able to continue at this rate.
So at this rate, I would say no, but there's no reason to think they're not going to be better than last year, and that some of these guys are not going to have really good years. So like Quinn Hughes, leading the league in assists. He's improved that shot, as you mentioned, leading the league in plus minus as well. So the team itself has been really good around him. It's not just him either. So one thing we mentioned it a couple times. We've tweeted out about Hughes a few times about his shot and how he made a comment in the offseason that he's working on his shot. He's made a commitment to work on it, and it's clearly been paying off, right? It's harder. It's better. He's shooting at better times. He's getting the puck more. And that's something that I always look for, being a fantasy baseball guy too. I always look for that when I hear about a guy, making a tweak to his swing or his batting stance. I always think okay, I'm going to look into that come draft day, because those a lot of times are from coaches or from video studying, and it pays off for them. Statistically. So this is an example where I wish I kind of listened to that a little bit more and said, hey, this is going to make a difference for Quinn Hughes this year. But I didn't really. I put him in the same kind of boat as Adam Fox, where, he's going to get you 65, 70 points probably this year, but probably under 10 goals, not going to shoot a ton, doesn't really hit a ton. So I was kind of not really making a point of going to get him. But Vancouver, I fully expect they're going to make the playoffs. So it's just a matter of what other Canadian teams are going to join. No. Yeah,
I think that's another conversation and we'll see how Edmonton does in the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how Toronto does in the next couple of weeks in Ottawa. And it's just not a great time for Canadian teams as a whole right now. But looking forward a little bit, this Sweden series that's coming up between, I believe it's just the Leafs. I forget what other two teams are there. I think it's Detroit is one of them.
There's four. Yeah.
There's four? Interesting.
Detroit, Ottawa, Mini, and Toronto are the four teams, and they kind of do almost like a little 2-game series between two of the teams each. So I think that's starting on Thursday.
Yeah, the Leafs only have 2 games this week, a Thursday against Detroit and then Minnesota on the 19th. That's the Friday. They play Friday, Sunday. Yeah, kind of looking forward to that. It's definitely kind of impacted the schedule for this week. I know there's a ton of teams that play 2 games. I think there's 11 teams that play 2 games. The Rangers only play 1. It's just a weird week for fantasy in general. And I was looking at it prior to, because I actually have a pretty big matchup this week against one of the higher end teams in my $100 buy-in league. But yeah, it's weird scheduling right now. Minnesota also looking even more forward to next week, only has 2 games. The Sens only get 1 game the following week. The Leafs only get 2 games again the following week. So it's weird scheduling.
All the teams playing in Sweden. Much.
Yeah. That seems to be the case. Detroit actually ends up playing 3. So they're the kind of the odd one out in that sense, but it's weird scheduling in that sense for the next couple of weeks. And so definitely look to capitalize on some streamers and some teams that end up playing 3 or 4 games during the week. Vancouver actually happens to be one of them. We were just touching on them. So anybody to highlight going forward, anybody that you kind of are looking at just either as a stream option or somebody that you've just kind of kept an eye on in terms of their recent performances or anything, just to kind of finish up here on the pod? Looking forward to the next couple weeks here.
I'm also excited for the Sweden series. I think it's gonna be good, especially for the Swedish players. So there's a couple, I think at least one or two on each team, and those are kind of the guys I'm most intrigued to see how they do. I don't know about you when you're playing hockey, but like playing in your like favorite arena or your hometown in a tournament was always good, and always a boost of confidence when you had friends and family there. So that is kind of where my head's at in terms of like, I guess, the mental side of the game. So, is Willie Nylander going to go off this weekend, or is Philip Gustafsson going to get 2 wins kind of thing? So those are my kind of what I'm looking at for the Sweden series. Otherwise, I haven't really looked too far ahead to the next week yet. It's only, what is it, Tuesday? So I don't even know what day it is, but I'm still in this week. So take it 1 week at a time, and I'll cross that bridge kind of on Saturday or Sunday for future streamers. But the schedule's just been annoying. I've been sick of having like 1 or 2 games on the radar one night and then like 14 the next night. It's really hard if you get in a deficit in fantasy to catch up, because you can't make any ground on those off nights. It's like I have 2 guys going, my opponent has 3, and then the next night we both have like all 12 going. So you need big nights on the big nights, or else you're kind of screwed for the week.
Yeah, and it also really impacts you on a weekly basis if you have high-end players on that team. Like I have Matthews in 1 league, in 2 leagues actually now, and I only get 2 games out of him this week. Like especially the guys that you're looking for when in like categories leagues, if you're goalies, any type of, basically anybody that's an elite player that only gets 1 to 2 games in a week is definitely frustrating. Especially this one, given how many teams, like I said, there's like 11 teams that only play 2 games. So that really kind of impacts you, and you're really just kind of forced to either sit tight and just hold what you have, or try and pick up a streamer that plays 4 games. So all right, guys, that will do it for the pod. Thank you so much for listening to us. We're definitely going to try and make this a little bit more consistent, just with Don and I going over the Creators League. So if you guys are interested in that, for those of you watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below on topics that you want to see us cover. We can go over things like trades and targets when it comes to the Creators League. We can talk more in depth. We're looking to actually have some more creators on the show as well, to give us kind of a different perspective around what's happening throughout the league, their strategy for their team, their overall performances, all that good stuff. So if you're watching on YouTube, let us know in the comments down below what you want to see out of more in detail, essentially, with the Creator League. As well as if you're listening on Spotify, thank you so much. Be sure to hit that kind of follow button. We'll have a ton of more content coming out this week, including another pod coming out on Monday with Mike and Noah, giving kind of like the breakdown of this past week. Or it would be the breakdown of this week that we're currently on. But thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We will see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.